Churches have been pushing for a lifting of restrictions on gatherings. Newzroom Afrika reporter Tshegohaco Moagi has been talking to some church leaders. She joins us live now from Roodepoort. Now, Tshegohaco, this has been a very thorny issue for churches, as they say that if people are able to go to shopping malls and be able to do some shopping, they should also be allowed to operate.
Absolutely, Bongi. Good evening. And that is definitely the issue. You know, it really has been quite a thorny issue for those that are churchgoers and for pastors. And it's also been a difficult time for them as well, and finding different ways to actually have their sermons right here in South Africa, and to ensure that even with the lockdown level 4, that those sermons still continue, as people still want to have some kind of fellowship and worship that they can get on a Sunday morning. To give us details, Bongi, about what he's expecting to hear from the President this evening, I'm joined by Pastor Tshegohaco. He is from World Changers Church. Pastor Tshegohaco, thank you so much for your time. Now, we do know that there are, of course, the concerns that you may have as churches. But before we get to that, what are you hoping to get and to hear from the President this evening when he speaks?
Thank you, Tshegohaco, for having us. We appreciate the opportunity to give us a voice, to express. I think first and foremost is that given the numbers that are happening, the fact that the numbers are going down, the scientists agree that the last 2 weeks, particularly in Gauteng, the numbers are going down. We expect the President to ease the restrictions, particularly in gathering. And it's unfortunate that the church is seen as a gathering, but the church is more than just a gathering. So we expect the President to just give us a leeway, more so that there was a call from the President that churches and pastors must be on the ground after what has happened last week, 2 weeks ago, the unrest, to assist the community, to help, to feed the poor, to assist, just be there, pray, counsel people. So if we're going to do that, we cannot be hamstrung, and then we're not able to work, we're not able to do anything. So we expect that easing of the gathering regulation, by the President. In fact, the previous one, the gathering was criminalized, which was very sad, by the way, we should point it out. So yeah, we're expecting some good news from the President, but we'll hear what he says.
Now, Pastor Tshegohaco, besides the good news that you are expecting from the President, I mean, there is, of course, the issue of how many people you can have within the church at a given time. And we also know that there's also the issue that you've been telling us about off-air, about the online services and how some people are just unable to get to that, or even unable to connect to that service.
So I think in terms of the numbers, you always leave it to the President to say. We'll have to have a good number. What we have always argued, use the percentage, not a number. Because when you say 100, if the value is 100, then what? So if you use a percentage, it's a ratio, then you're able to accommodate the big church and the small church. Because if you say 20%, 30%, 50%, whatever they say, everybody is at the same level. But when you say 50, then what happens to the big churches? If you say 100, then the small churches, it's a full capacity. So we'll always argue, don't use a number, use a percentage, so that we'll be able to fellowship all of us, and we can be on the ground. Now, in terms of the online, that's like having two churches, Tshegohaco. So you have two churches, because now you have to make sure that you've got the streaming, people have the data, and all those things is very expensive given the time that we are in. And also, if you look at the stats, they said the food has gone up. So on top of that is the data to have church. It's very difficult. More so if you look at the rural areas, you look at the townships, those churches has no way of fellowshipping. As a matter of fact, I can say that from that I know, some churches are not coming back. And one church in a community, if you take a church out, that community will suffer, because the church is the moral compass of the society. If you take the church out in the rural areas, the churches want to come back. So the issue of the data is used more in the urban areas, but in the rural areas and the township, it's very, very difficult. So the churches are in a difficult spot, and that's why sometimes you see the churches, the pastors react the way they are reacting. They feel like we're being ignored and all those things. It's not out of not asking. So I think those are the challenges. So you have two churches. I had one pastor saying he recorded his message on WhatsApp, and send it to the people. And in the rural areas, Gogo, they don't have WhatsApp. So they're out of there, They believe, the communion, they don't have the communion, they don't see the pastor. So it's quite a difficult time.
Now, Pastor, just finally, you have mentioned that, it's easy and you guys do have the COVID-19 protocols, I'm guessing, in place at all churches. We were from one church, such church, where they've got the markings on the chair where people should actually be sitting. But some might argue that you see your congregants once a week and we don't know where they go within that week between Monday and Saturday. And how do you then ensure that you do not have people that could possibly be carrying the COVID virus walking into the church?
Yeah, look, I mean, it's a debate that we all have. So I can take you, what about the taxis, Okay, what about the restaurants? What about the malls? So if you look at that, the churches actually are the most compliant compared to everyone. We're the most compliant. If you go to every church, we comply. We cannot guarantee where the person, but what we do by checking the temperature, by asking people if you're coughing, if you've got temperature, please don't come to church. So we send those messages, and we've got people that are able to do those things to make sure we announce it. So we make sure we follow the protocol. But let me add also, even though we follow the protocol, the church community do feel that our government really don't listen to us. And I think this is the reasoning. We are seen as a gathering, but we are more than a gathering. It starts with a gathering, but we are a community. We help the community. We uplift the community. We pray with the community. We support the community. So we are not a gathering. We're not a tavern. We are not a sport. We're not a club. But we are put with the clubs, with the taverns, all of us. And then the other thing that they say, we don't have economy. There is a church economy. There's a big, churches employ people. And as we speak, other people are losing jobs because the government doesn't even help us. And to add on that, when you look at the vaccine, for those who believe in the vaccine, the pastors are not even prioritized, but everyone else. So it's quite challenging. So we're living in a very difficult space.
All right. Thank you so much, Pastor Giet Kosa, saying that, they will do all that they can, Bongi, to ensure that there is compliance in the churches, and really just calling on President Cyril Ramaphosa when he speaks tonight to remember the pastors and their plight to have their worshippers back in church.